This meeting is being recorded.
And you turn around. Yeah, it's a small. So what is it?
Sounds like everything's so obvious. I don't want to put it on that. I silenced it.
And on Zoom, all of our virtual attendees. My name is Christy Scott. I'm the Director of Community Relations here at FCPS. Just here to welcome you and offer a few housekeeping remarks before we get started. Tonight is a great opportunity for us to learn more about the Dunn Repurposing Project, which is a Fairfax County Public Schools capital project funded by a voter-approved bond referendum. Tonight, you are going to learn more about the design and the design process, and have an opportunity to share your views on the progress to date and future plans. Public feedback will be shared with the Fairfax County Planning Commission, School Board, Board of Supervisors, and FCPS staff. But please be aware at this stage in the design and construction process, no major changes may be made, but small adjustments may be considered. As a reminder, today's event focuses on the proposed design and future construction of the Dunn Administrative Center. Discussions about boundaries will be held at the start of construction, which we anticipate to be possibly as early as spring 2024. We ask that we keep our focus tonight on that design and construction topic and encourage everyone to sign up for our mailing list so you can stay informed about the project status and about future events such as this where you'll have the opportunity to engage with us. For our guests on Zoom, your mics are going to be turned off to help with bandwidth issues. Chat is open for attendees to message the host for any technical issues, and we will be using the Q&A function on your screen when we get to that portion of tonight's event. You will be able to see all questions asked, and you can upvote a question if it is something that you want to hear more about. For our in-person guests, when it is time for the Q&A portion, if you have a question or comment, just raise your hand. We'll be happy to bring a mic to you so that everyone can hear us. And our team will be monitoring the Zoom Q&A as well, and we'll interject with questions and comments from there as they pop up. So now I'd just like to take a moment to introduce a few special guests and invite them to say a few words, starting with the Superintendent of Fairfax County Public Schools, Dr. Michelle Reed.
Thank you very much, and it's great to see all of you this evening. Feel like I'm echoing.
We are. We're trying to figure it out. Trying to work out how and why.
That's all right. I'll use my other voice, small voice, I guess. I don't know what it is.
I don't know what it is.
Anyhow, it's great that you're able to be with us. Maybe we just turn it off. It's great to have a chance to be with you and talk about this project, which I think will be amazing as we think about preparing for classroom space for our youngest learners. And I'm really just here to say welcome and thanks for being part of the process. I don't actually have the technical details But I do have the excitement for learning spaces for our youngest learners. So I'll be here for a little bit, and then I have to scamper off to Lewis High School for a community.
We turn the audio back on.
This is not on.
You're on mute and you're mute.
The computer.
Try it again. Let's try it again. Yeah, with the mic. Is that better? Is that better?
Thank you for your patience as we dealt with that technical issue, and thank you to our audience member for your assistance. These events are always an adventure, so we appreciate your patience. So again, thank you, Dr. Reed, for being here. And next, I believe we have virtually our school board chair and at-large member, Rashna Sizemore-Heiser. Would you like to say a few words?
Is she here? She's not online.
It does not appear that she is online. If she pops in later, we'll give her that opportunity. But we do have Providence District School Board member Carl Frisch.
Hello, I wish I could be there with everybody. I just finished a work call, but I'm looking forward to tonight's presentation and hearing the community's feedback. I've done several site visits over the last several months and had discussions with community members about various issues from traffic and stormwater runoff to school capacity and programming. So I will be listening very closely tonight to the Q&A so that I can follow up with staff on the various topics raised during the discussion. As always, if you'd like to reach out to me directly, you can go to fcps.edu/frisch, that's F-R-I-S-C-H, and there's a button at the bottom of the page where you can send me a message. So I look forward to the conversation. Thank you, everybody, for being here online and in person.
Thank you, Mr. Frisch. We also have Drainsville District School Board member Elaine Tolan.
Yes, good evening, and a huge thank you to all of you for being here this evening. It's an exciting time. We're looking at a new school, and when we see the presentation, it's like a new slate. But it's an exciting opportunity for us to put the most up-to-date educational specifications in our Dunn Loring location. I do want to thank our McLean Citizens Association members and the Greater Tyson Citizens Coalition for some of their work on, just looking at the Tysons area and capacity numbers and capacity issues. And, with all of these kinds of questions, it is really, really important that we've got this project moving forward. So thanks for being here. Looking forward to hearing your input.
Thank you. And Region 2 Executive Principal Brendan Mooney.
Hello, I'm Dr. Brendan Minui. I'm an executive principal in Region 2, so I help support the schools in the Annandale Falls Church, McLean, Marshall, Justice pyramids. So the schools nearby, Dunn Loring, are schools that I support. I was an elementary principal, and actually I opened a new school as a teacher, and I opened a new school as an administrator, and I'm happy to support the opening of a new school as a central office administrator. So thank you for being here tonight.
And because we, of course, cannot do this type of work on our own, we have a few representatives, I believe, from Fairfax County, the Providence District Supervisor's Office.
Hi there all, this is Ari Calendar from Supervisor Palchik's office. Supervisor Palchik is hoping to jump on. She's got a sick baby at home, so she is still trying to work through her schedule, but she hopes she'll be on and be able to hear the conversation soon, and just excited to be able to listen and hear and find ways for us to be helpful and productive as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. And I believe we also have someone from the Providence District Planning Commissioner.
He didn't make it.
He has not made it online yet, but if
He's
he wants
there.
to,
He's just logged in as a guest, not a panelist.
Okay, I'll
Yeah.
fix that.
we will work on that and hopefully circle back around and have him offer some remarks. And then one last thing before we get started, just want to make a few very quick introductions of thank you to some staff and some partners who are here with us tonight. If you'll just wave when I call your name. Executive Director of Capital Improvements and Planning, Jessica Gillis. Executive Director of the Office of Communication and Community Relations, Helen Lloyd. Our Director of Design and Construction Services, Heather Dietz. And our Coordinator of Capital Projects, Brad James. And a special thank you to our Communication Support Specialist, Kathy Bryan, for keeping us running tonight. Appreciate all of her work. We also have representatives from Samaha Architects, Tom Lee, Randy Beard. Any others? You have to help out.
With Nisha with Penelope.
Nisha with Panoni, am I saying that right? Which is our civil engineer. Thank you. And that is all I have for you. So I'm gonna turn it over to Brad James, who's gonna kick off the evening, please.
Our planning commissioner is on as a panelist and host now, if you wanted to swing to him.
Yeah.
Phil, do you want to unmute yourself?
I'm unmuted and happy to be here this evening and welcome the opportunity to listen on comments with regard to this very important opportunity for this area of the county. As a planning commissioner, I have responsibility for the land use issues associated with Providence District, and this matter of the future of this site will come before the planning commission in the public hearing, and I'll look forward to helping facilitate that conversation. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, Christy. All right, so I'm Brad James. I'm coordinator with design and construction for Fairfax County Public Schools. I want to thank everybody for taking time out of your busy schedules to be here this evening.
I don't think they can hear you unless
You
you
need
get the
to be
microphone
close.
Okay, sorry. All right, thank you. So just want to thank you guys for taking time out of your busy schedules to be here. We are going to share a short presentation that's going to highlight some of the design options that we're considering for converting the Dunn Learning Center into an elementary school. I continue with the introductions. He's not here today, but in-house for FCPS, we have Savash Gambier, architectural engineer. He helps me with supervision and oversight of the consultant team. The consultant team, they do most of the design work for us, led by Samaha Associates that you've been introduced to. Tom will be presenting here in a few minutes. We're also joined by Panoni, our civil engineer. Structural is Eller Bryan, and our mechanical, electrical, and plumbing engineers are Strickler Associates. All of these consultants have worked on multiple FCPS projects over the last decade or so. Community role. So the main purpose of tonight's meeting is to engage you, the community at large, and to receive some feedback on the design options that we're currently considering. And some specific examples we're going to look at include site access, traffic flow, parking lot configuration, play field, ball field locations, and then the building prototype itself. At the end of this, we will have Q&A like we've mentioned. So we hope you guys generate some questions and then also share any suggestions to concerns you might have with this project. Project timeline. Currently, we are in the design phase. We're a little less than halfway through the 2-year process, which is also includes permitting. And we do anticipate starting construction in spring of 2024 with the completion of fall 2026, a little over 2-year construction timeframe. Project scope. At FCPS, we have the educational specifications that we use as guidelines. And in this, we call it the ed specs. It lists out each of the spaces within the school building by room name. It gives different sizes, floor finishes, the equipment and the furniture that goes into that space, just so that we're consistent with our design across the county for all of our school buildings. So it really helps us as a field to be consistent. For this project in particular, we will be demolishing the existing building, a lot of the site to make way for the new building footprint and the new parking lot configurations. The new building footprint we do anticipate will be smaller. It's going to have a security vestibule And there's also going to be a lot of cost savings, we think, just due to the high performance nature of new materials that we'll be putting into the design. For the site, so we will be having a parking lot, we'll have a bus loop, we'll have a kiss and ride loop, we'll have areas for ball fields, and then different play areas. And then last thing I'll comment for scope is one thing that's unique for this project compared to other renovations is there's no phase construction. So since there's currently not an elementary school on site, we don't have to phase and work around students and staff. That's a big benefit to this project in general. With that being said, I'm going to pass it off to Tom, who's going to share you some renderings and some site plans.
Thanks so much, Brad. And thanks everyone for spending some of your evening with us tonight. I'm excited to be here. And I'll just start by showing you the site that most of you are very familiar with. Right here at the intersection of Gallows and Idlewood Roads. The Dunn Loring School was originally built in 1939, and then it was closed as elementary school back in 1978 as the attendance receded. And later in the late 80s became an administration center for Fairfax County Public Schools and has served in that capacity since. If you notice about the existing site, the building is built closest to the Gallows and Idlewood intersection, and there's a playfield off to the west. The playfield is about 8 to 10 feet in elevation higher than the remainder of the site, and there is quite a bit of cross slope across the entire Gallows Road site where the existing building is located. There's entrances currently off of Gallows and Idlewood. We started with option 1. And this is an option we presented to a design feedback committee previously. And we've really moved past this option based on the feedback that we received at that meeting. And the feedback was focused on both the site circulation and constructability and queuing line issues. So just to kind of give you a brief overview of why we moved past this option, you'll notice there's only 2 site entrances. One is off of Gallows Road, and it is currently a location that is a little too close to the main intersection of Idlewood and Gallows. There's also, with that cross slope of the lower part of the site, a difficulty in building a flat finished floor elevation throughout the school and making the grades work to be able to transfer onto Gallows Road from that location. But most importantly, really the circulation of vehicles on site is somewhat constrained. You'll notice the kiss and ride disembarking area is fairly short and limited in number of cars, and there was a concern that traffic could back up and affect some of the arterial roads in that neighborhood. There's also a need, with only the 2 side entrances, for vehicles to have to make a U-turn, potentially to come in and out of the kiss and ride loop, as well as bus traffic. So what we like to do is try to keep buses and parent kiss and ride drop-off separate where possible. You'll notice in all the options, no students are ever asked to cross any vehicular ways once they're on the site. But there's a number of reasons why we really moved past this site. It also felt like the building was somewhat surrounded by paving, given the location of the loading dock to the west end of the building. So with that, after those first committee meetings, we developed 2 more options. The first is taking the building and locating it on the site of the existing field. Now, the existing field is a little higher up, but it's a nice level location. One of the benefits here is that we could start construction a little faster because we don't have to wait until the demolition of the existing admin center is complete. But more importantly, we're able to get 3 site entrances off of Idlewood. 1 aligning with Greenbrier Way, and then 2 more for the bus loop. So you see a complete and independent separation between the kiss and ride traffic and the bus traffic, with parking on both sides. You'll notice here the little blue rectangles indicate the spaces on site for kiss and ride. There's about 30 in this option. The option is a 2 and 3 story combination building. So it fits the site fairly well in that neighborhood. There is enough room for all of the paved areas, both playgrounds and paved play together. But you'll notice in this option, they are fairly remote from the play field. So there's a distance that goes past the kiss and ride to get to the play field from this location. With that, I'll talk to you a little bit about the floor plans here. There we go. Kathy, can you just bring us to?
Yep.
Sure.
There we go.
So
has this been decided on?
yeah, we're going to show you 2 options that are still potential, and really we're looking to get feedback. So just like we did at the committee meetings, that feedback's valuable to us, and we'll try to incorporate it the best we can in your all the options. So here, just to start on the first floor of the 3-story first option, you can see in green, we have the administrative area. It's located directly off the bus loop. It provides passive visual security and covers both entrances. The yellow are the classrooms, which are stacked on the west end. You'll notice in red, we have the cafeteria. But as you move up through the building, you'll see on this option, we have both the gym and the library on the second floor. This design really follows the prototype that we built in Herndon for the McNair Upper Elementary School, if anyone's familiar with that project, where we have stacked the gym over the cafeteria, which has been successful at that location. Here we also have the art and the music departments on the second level. And as you move up through the building to the third floor, we have primarily just classroom spaces. So you'll notice about the plan that we have a fair amount of changes in the building envelope and building levels to bring down the scale of the building. While we're looking at approximately 120,000 square foot facility, we've been able to decrease the scale visually of the building by creating these different kind of portions of the project. Here in this rendering, you can see first concept of what the building could look like. You'll notice that we have the bus loop where we have the buses graphically shown, and then the kiss and ride has its own entrances as well. The loading dock is directly off the kiss and ride here, but typically in elementary schools, areas like that are coned off for the beginning and end of the day when kiss and ride is used. You'll also see the art department overhanging that west end of the building. So this option really is focused on moving a lot of the activity further from Gallows to help assist with that queuing and to provide the 3 site accesses. The next option, the third option I have for you, is this, and it's a 4-story school that we put back at the site of the existing building. While this is 4 stories, it's taller than the 3-story option, but it takes advantage of that portion of the site being slightly lower. So it's still overall a little taller than option 2, but it still seems to fit the site. What you'll notice is you do still have just 2 site entrances here, but we do have a queuing line of approximately 50 cars. So that gives us an even longer area to stack in. One of the benefits of this option is it groups the paved play, the playgrounds, and the play field all in a tight formation. And this is the building with the smallest footprint because it takes advantage of the 4 stories. We still do have the need to circulate and make a U-turn for the kiss and ride traffic to go back out the same entrance they came if it's at a time of day when buses are queued simultaneously. So I'll go through the plans here and show you a few of the other differences. You notice on the first floor, this is really the activity floor. We have the gym and the cafeteria on the same level along with music. Admin is in green still up front, as well as the SAC program there to the west. And then as you move up through the school, on the second level, we have the media center, which makes a projected canopy covering the bus loop entrance. And then the academic pods are off to the right. And then moving up to the third floor, you can see we have the art department in the light purple color along with additional classrooms. And the 4th story is primarily all classrooms. Now, in this option, we didn't have room to build future expansion like we do in option 2. So what we did is we identified a portion of the building that could be built out as shell for the time being, and then we could infill that if the need arises. You'll notice also in this plan the other low roof areas around it. And even while it's still a 4-story building, the idea is that the building volume decreases as it goes up in height. So it still creates a kind of a smaller overall feel. And you can see that the vertical wall on the Gallows side is straight up for the 4 stories, but towards the neighborhoods, it steps down with each floor on the back of the building. And then that projected media center on the front helps soften that facade as well. This project for option 3 does require a fair amount of retaining wall because this whole portion of the site has a lot of undulations and slopes, both east to west and north to south. So those are the 3 options we're presenting tonight. And with that, I'd just like to open it up to questions.
Sorry, I have a question. Can you go back to that map?
Sure.
Thank you.
Which option would you like the
The third option.
this one?
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, for all of these options, how much of the trees will you be taking down?
I can't say that we've done a specific tree survey yet. We'll have an arborist get involved as the project moves forward, but at this point, we're still looking at options. So that's a little bit of a later step, but I'm assuming the concern is to retain as much
Yeah,
tree cover as possible.
I guess part of my concern is this particular option saves a lot of the green space, whereas the other option does not. And, you know, green space is hard to come by these days. Which is why I would favor this option.
I think that's a keen observation. You know, the driving force behind creating this option was to try to limit that footprint. A 4-story building is slightly more expensive to build because it requires a different construction type than a 3-story building for commercial construction. But that's just one of the factors in the design.
We also work very closely with Fairfax County Regulatory, so they review our plans, they have an urban forester, so they make sure we have adequate tree coverage and canopy coverage.
And I can mention too that in any option that's implemented, we'll meet all the full and current stormwater management regulations. And I know in some of our previous committee meetings, the concern was with development, are we considering more runoff or things of that nature? And yeah, generally speaking, whenever we do these renovations or new constructions and get new site plans, they come to the current and most robust version of the code. So it's usually a benefit to the surrounding community.
Greetings. For each option, can you tell us how much parking is available and if overflow parking is needed, where that could go?
So for both options, we're targeting approximately 130 parking spaces. The ed spec for an elementary school based on staff need is 80 parking spaces. But we recognize that with the admin center there, you have greater than that amount of parking now. So we're trying not to bring it down too significantly, but still recognizing that we're going from a staff-heavy space like an admin center to a school which the primary occupants are a little too young to drive. So we're looking at 130 spaces now, but I think that's possible to make revisions there if necessary. I think is the concern there that overflow for street parking, is that?
Yes, so you have special event parking, you have, back to school.
Yeah, there may be opportunities like for a back to school night, we could look into potentially parking on paved play on the site. Sometimes we try to put a roll down curb in places so that we can park maybe on a basketball court. We may be able to pull off, like in this option, we have a long road coming around the ball field. We may be able to provide the ability to pull off the roadway there. But I think right now, currently on site, there's 185 spaces. We had someone go out and count the other day. But that's where we are right now, is we're at 130 for all the options essentially.
We have a question from Zoom. Are these designs net zero?
We're currently not seeking a net zero design, which is a building that would utilize no more energy than it creates on site. But we are proceeding with the CHIPS program, which is a collaborative for high performance schools. So we're still looking at a very high performance building, both from an energy standard, but also one that ties into the educational purpose of the school. So we're looking for synergies there so that the building can both educate the students and provide lower operating costs throughout its life cycle. Please.
So is there a significant difference from the two options that we're really looking at here from a traffic standpoint? Has like a traffic impact study been done? Is that a thing?
We will be doing a traffic impact study. It hasn't occurred yet, but it's something that we are getting proposals for now, and they'll have to do a period where they count vehicles and they'll come to us with recommendations and see what the impact is. Certainly with every school, I think typically the county's been providing traffic studies, and since there have been some ideas and concerns identified, and particularly about the Idlewood and Gallows Road intersection, that'll be looked into. Since we're eliminating the intersection off Gallows, that may actually assist the Gallows portion of the traffic. Typically, if we were to build a new building here, we wouldn't be allowed to build the intersection that close to another intersection. There's standards in VDOT that we're looking to meet with the new design.
So Tom, we have one comment from our board member, Elaine Tolan, and it's on design 3. Can you put the outdoor classroom closer to the woods versus so close to Gallows Road?
Yeah, I think there's an opportunity for that. I think we could carve out a space near that paved play or those playgrounds up. I'm not sure how we can point to the screen on this system, but
I can, so.
yeah,
over
so
here. Tell me where to point.
up here maybe.
Yeah.
I think we could put something in that location. I think that's a good idea. And that's something we've been kind of kicking the idea around ourselves in our office, so.
Where there'll be a fence on the north side to keep students from going through our townhouse cluster's private property on the way to school?
That's something I'd have to discuss with public schools as we move forward with the design. We typically do create barriers when there's an identified issue. We also use planting a lot of times to deter certain traffic patterns. But that's something that we could discuss a little further. We typically also involve the Office of Safety and Security when we get further along in the planning as to how students actually approach the site. Yes.
Hi, I live right at the top of your screen there,
Okay.
the beginning of those buildings. So if you go to design option 2, please.
Yes.
Okay, where you've got, I think that's playground?
So the charcoal colored rectangles
What
are
is that?
paved play areas, and then the beige areas are playgrounds.
Okay, so any of that up at the top of the screen, how far away from the property line is that?
There is a setback on that property line to where we can build anything. And I don't know offhand if that's like 30 or 40 feet to anything. Nisha, I don't know if you have that.
For some reason, I think it's 25.
Okay.
I'll still check.
But we are required to meet all setbacks and all buffers. So planted buffers, setbacks, bulk plane calculations, and the difference between a vertical construction and a horizontal, like a playground or a paved play area is different in the zoning ordinance.
And we're also, this is being recorded along with the questions that are being asked. And so if we have to get back, we're going to post responses to a lot of these with a theme, so we can post that setback.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I just didn't really understand. That's a lot of technical language that just kind of flew past me. So I'm just wondering, how close are kids gonna be to my back window?
Right.
And that's what we're going to post for you. Yep, we'll make sure.
Thank you. Please.
Yeah,
I think she's bringing a microphone so they can hear you on the Zoom.
speak louder. Like in option 2 here, you have 2 ball fields. I don't think they get a ball field now there. It's been there for 6 years, as long as I've lived there. And not one time have I seen anybody ever play baseball. It's a beautiful soccer field right now, and it should be kept. And because if you look anywhere, all the young kids don't play baseball, they don't play soccer.
Yeah, I don't believe they're looking to do a skinned infield. This is really just for the educational program that for a PE class, they can go outside and they can set it up for kickball or they can play soccer on it. I don't think it'll be actually a physical
It
difference.
looks like it is right now. You've got 2 baseball diamonds on this one.
Right, and we do that just to make sure that they'll fit, that we can lay out the spaces required for those play areas.
Like I said, never been used in 6 years. So why bother? It's totally inefficient. Totally cost.
So,
Ineffective.
just add to that. So it will be all green. So even though we showed gray with the diamonds, that's just for like, to make sure it fits. So it'll be all green. It'll be just a soccer field. And then the PE class can come out and they could use painting or striping or cones to kind of use that. But understood.
The other thing I was concerned with here is, I live on the back line there. Just around the corner, so we get up there, if you go around it, wherever that street is Sawtooth Oak, whatever, and right up there is where I live. And the green is very important to that area. Its property value will certainly go down if you do this. Definitely go way down. And that's a big concern over time. And the fact that this has much less green space is just inconceivable to me. I don't know why you would keep it where you do a 4-story one. And you may say it costs more, I can't see how it works.
Yeah, the The reason the 4-story works on the lower half of the site a little better is because that sloping part of the site, the footprint of this building on option 2 is larger. So to be able to fit it to that lower part of the site would be difficult to get the ball field still intact on the upper portion without having a lot of elevation changes within the school. Like the current admin center has ramps and different elevations all over it inside. And for a new school, we'd be looking to simplify that first floor.
Right, but we had that third option. That field was already left. That area is already graded and taken care of very nicely. And why would you go creating something else when you have something that is very well accepted in the community area?
Sure.
And people make a lot of use of it.
Yeah, and part of the effort here is, you know, as architects, we draw out ideas because we don't want to preconceive the solution off the bat. We want to sketch them out, see what they look like, get the feedback, find out what's working and what's not working. That usually leads us to a better overall design that really fits what the community's purposes are.
In terms of efficiency, then why wouldn't you just do option 3? It's got to be more efficient, got to be less time consuming. It may be easier to get in and out. I don't know how the traffic going, but things that are always lost to me are efficiency and control and responsibility. And I think that this takes that all away from everybody. Third one keeps the small, has the smallest footprint, as I said, we don't want to get for it.
Right, I understand. Thank you. I think there's a gentleman behind you in the black. He's been looking at.
Yeah, I just sort of to reiterate his point, that field that's currently there is used all the time. It's some of the only good green space in the area. And to replace it with fields that are right on Gallows Road and try to get the kids playing right at one of the busiest intersections in the area, I think is a terrible idea. I think that design option 3 is much better, much more livable for the people who actually have to live with this after you're done. And I would strongly oppose design option 2. I think it really shifts the burden of this school onto all of the people who live back there and takes away one of the only places that the kids go to play right now. And it's, I think that design option 2 is terrible.
Tom, switch to design option 3, please.
Sure.
We have one, Tom, is there a plan to add lanes, particularly turning lanes to Idlewood? The existing intersection at Greenbrier has poor sight lines because of the elevation difference with Gallows Road.
That I'd have to kind of defer until we get that traffic study done. We do have the boundaries. You notice the property line does go out into the street for both of these. So those turn lanes potentially could be within the property. I do believe we would have some deceleration lanes coming in as required for like the bus loop entrance and so on. But those would all be developed after we take next steps.
Sorry,
Yes.
We live on exactly right behind the woods, so it's actually walking distance. We can see the school right now from our kitchen window. So the question that my community has is, how do you avoid our road to become the kiss and ride? Because it's literally a 2-minute walk. Parents don't have to go through the pretty long line in the mornings. They can just drop off the kids. And if there are no any fences, then the kids can literally just walk in. So that's going to be traffic, and road is a private road and we don't want any liability.
Sure, I understand. And the first step we do to mitigate that is to give them a kiss and ride arrangement that works so that they don't need to avoid a problem. Because I understand at some schools, you might have an existing condition that has a very short area to disembark or to pick up kids, and they might be slow to load and get in and out, and those tend to back up. So in both these schemes, we're looking to create both a kiss and ride loop that has a large amount of cars that can fit on the site before getting onto the main road, but also a significant amount of length of that space that the kids can get in and out of cars for pickup and drop off. So that's the first step. The other part is we work with the schools and the Office of Safety and Security so that the message is brought out to the community that that's not an appropriate action for parents. And hopefully that is conveyed strongly and frequently throughout the program and everyone gets in the habit of doing it correctly. I think that's an issue across the county that there's a lot of effort that happens on every project to make sure that they're following the prescriptive use of how to bring kids to school.
That's why I think having a kind of a fencing plan right now at the design stage is going to be so crucial to the community. So we know exactly, how that's going to look like, just to maintain, we live in a very quiet area. Want to maintain that, as well as, again, access. It's a private road, and these are very young kids. So, God forbid something happens, it's could be on my land basically, and I'm not reliable. So we want to avoid all of that at this stage. So it would be great to see those plans right now, so we can convey the message to the community.
Yeah, I think that's a good point to bring up. Thank you.
Point of clarification, what age group are we talking here?
So this would be pre-K through 6th grade.
I'll just add to that. So that's the second time we've heard this kind of feedback. So we're going to in turn look at fencing for the property. That is something we do with OSS. And I've heard twice now kind of the same area on the map. So we can take a closer look at that and provide an update in the future.
Is there a way to modify option 3 to allow for kiss and ride exit without U-turn?
I think that would be something we'd like to study. I think there may be an opportunity to connect it to the back of the bus loop, but again, safety and security would want to comment on the protocol for moving that traffic through the site. We typically try to keep it as physically separate as possible, but I think there may be opportunities, especially if they could stagger some of the buses versus some of the kiss and ride pickup.
Where is the U-turn? Sorry.
In this plan, it is closest to the Gallows Idlewood intersection.
Brad's gonna
Brad's gonna point. Very good. Right.
So the kids right comes up around.
Oh, I was looking at that backwards.
They go back in.
Right. So there may be an opportunity to connect that to the back of the bus loop, but that's all something we need to plan.
Hi, sorry, I had to sort of piggyback a couple comments on what she was saying. I mean, just in 2022, socializing things and asking people to respect boundaries isn't really doable. There's always going to be 10% of people who are going to push back or not care. So doing something concrete to help mitigate that, as opposed to hope people are respectful, I think is something a lot of the community would want. For those of us who live back there, I live not far behind her. I think that we already have problems at 9 o'clock in the morning getting onto Gallows. I heard you already semi-answered the question about you didn't yet have a traffic pattern. There needs to be no traffic analysis. I'm telling everyone that it is a fact that turning right or left, right onto Gallows, right off of Gallows onto Idlewood is a problem already. There is room for turning lanes. So there's, for the community, I can speak for 20 of us that are back there. We don't need a traffic analysis. We know that's a problem currently. You add 900 people coming in and out, that's going to be worse.
Okay, thank
So
you.
we'll definitely.
Go ahead. With the fencing, it sounds like we typically add fencing and barriers when it becomes a community concern and it's been clearly voiced. So I think that'll happen based on kind of your guys' feedback tonight.
And what about the turning lanes?
I mean, when we design the site plan for things like turning lanes, we have to coordinate that with VDOT. So we'll make sure we go through that process. I don't think anyone here opposes having, more depth of turning lanes. We just need to get it through the next level of design. We're really at kind of a conceptual level here. And we could show an intent to add those now, and we can try to pursue that through the process. I don't think there's any pushback for that idea.
When would we know that, or how would you get that information out?
I suppose at the next community meeting, we can probably say what we found out.
And we have a project webpage for all of our projects like this that if you got the handout tonight, you got a QR code that'll take you right there. We keep that updated regularly with everything. Plus you can get on our mailing list. And when there's news to share, we'll send it out through that. So I encourage everybody, scan those QR codes, sign up for everything, bookmark that webpage, and we will make sure that you're informed.
Thank you.
I just want to say how exciting this project is, how glad I am that this is coming to fruition. It has been so many years in the making, and it is so needed. It will have such a huge impact on so many communities. not just the nearly 1,000 students who will be going there, but all of the schools that it will alleviate the overcrowding for. So thank you so much for taking the charge on this. I do have a question though, because one of the challenges that we see when these schools are built is by the time they're built and open and you cut the ribbon, it's already overcrowded or it's barely making it. So when you look at design option 3, which seems to be the favorite maybe, my concern is, where do you go, how do you grow out from there, right? Because it doesn't seem to leave much room for growth. Where do you put the trailers, basically, is my question. Because it seems a little inevitable these days that that's kind of the direction it ends up going.
Sure, I appreciate the comment. I think it is always trying to look at enrollment projections is something that public schools has to do often and make kind of the best decision based on the current information. But we do, when we design options, always look for ability to have future expansion. Option 2 has room on the site where they could build an addition of multiple stories. Option 3, we're looking at potentially enclosing space within the facade that's unused. We call it cold dark shell. So it's like you have a space that's built inside the perimeter of the building, but you're not fitting it out with interior finishes and lights and marker boards and so on. And then that space can be added in the future. So you'll notice on the first floor plan, as you go up, there's spaces that are low roof. There may be the potential, if needed, on this far western portion of the building. If during design it was determined that a greater capacity was needed, maybe that becomes a floor plan area of that level. But mostly on the top floor, you'll notice this light green color. That is cold dark shell, and we could potentially add another 3 or 4 classrooms within that space without having to do any exterior construction on site. It does build a little bit more early, but it kind of mitigates that problem in the future. I'm looking for who has the mic. Oh, there you go. Okay.
Thank you. And thank you for your work so far on engaging the community on this. We are excited about the project. And thank you for rearranging the site from the earlier visions to move some of the traffic away from the corner of Gallows or Idlewood. One concern or one question I have is that the boundary study is going to take place kind of after you've done these traffic studies. And my question is that I really think that where the students are coming from can impact a lot of the traffic patterns at that intersection. If you have a lot of students coming over Idlewood to come to the new Dunn Loring School, that's going to have a really different impact than if most of your students are coming north-south on Gallows. And so I kind of just have some questions about when you're thinking about the traffic study and how this is going to play in the community, not knowing where your boundary adjustment is going to be sending the students from, like,
I think
thinking about
that's
it,
right.
There's a little bit of a disconnect there.
When they look at the boundaries, they'll be looking at what the tributary areas are serving the school and where those vehicles are coming from. I think that will be part of their review process in creating that boundary.
I think that was an excellent question she asked. Also, in looking at option 3, when you go back there, you had suggested bringing some of that kiss and ride traffic out onto Idlewood through the bus area. So it aligned with Greenbrier Road there.
I mean, currently we're looking at having that traffic turn around and then come back out the same entrance they came in.
I think
further
that's a
down.
better option because it's gonna be just too tempting for the parents to continue down Greenbrier, go up Westchester to Cedar to avoid that light at Cedar and Idlewood. And if you do that, that creates a huge problem for our neighborhood, as we have a hill in that neighborhood which doesn't meet feet outside requirements right now. And we have a lot of issues with head-on traffic there. So I would suggest keeping that turnaround and coming back out where your entrance is to the kiss and ride now.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to reiterate that hill is very dangerous as is. It's not very wide, and so going over it, nothing to do with children is an issue, so just to second that.
And we did hear some concerns about the Greenbrier Way traffic in our early committee meetings as well, which led to some of these decisions to move more of the entrances further from Gallows. So I appreciate your comment.
I'd like to share some online real quick, but there's a batch of several community members who have noted that they prefer option 3 based on a smaller footprint, placing the larger building closer to Gallows, keeping the outdoor rec space group together, the proximity to the neighbors, and traffic concerns. Just sharing that option 3 is coming across online.
Hi, this is less for the architects, because I understand you guys are designing what you can. But just would love to note for the record that calling this a repurposing at this point is a little bit of a bait and switch. That really, this is a tear down rebuild. Because I do think that it's a little bit deceptive in how people are understanding what the project is. This is no longer repurposing. And also just, there are many members of the surrounding neighborhood who are just finding out about this. I don't think that it's necessarily, maybe there have been community meetings happening, maybe there have been meetings, but this is the first we've heard of it. So, yeah.
Is that somewhere else and those guys were more vocal that they can keep this project out of that? I mean, it's like a blog online that I read that you guys wanted to put it in a park and then in McLean that the need was higher and the need was less in Dunn Loring. Is that true, or this is like some upset people in McLean that have more money that they could kick that out? Or was it true? Like, is the need higher in McLean than Dunn Loring? Yes, no?
So
Who knows?
Sure. So this went before the Fairfax County School Board about approving this location.
Forgive me, is the need higher in McLean or Dunn Loring? The school need, is it higher than McLean?
I don't know that this project has anything to do with McLean. I don't know that there was any sites ever proposed in McLean related to this project. So.
And just to speak in terms of the community engagement and the communication that you're seeing, we have recently within FCPS completely re-envisioned how we're working through our capital projects such as this. So you will see more events like this, the project web pages for all of our projects, these mailing lists that we're doing. So you'll see a lot more robust communication and engagement coming out. That's a whole new thing. It's been our Office of Communications and Community Relations, the facilities team working really hard to make that happen for you guys. So hopefully we'll meet those expectations.
So I'm just going to step in there. And if you'd like to kind of review that framework and see how we're working forward and how we're rethinking and redesigning our capital project engagement plan, that's also outlined on the website on a new capital improvement project webpage. So please make sure you do go there, take a look. It's a long outline of a document explaining exactly how we're going to be engaging the community. It's a framework, and then within that, we will have project plans for each project built out.
Two questions for you. First, are you using dark sky lighting?
So to meet the site plan requirements, all of the site lighting will have full night sky cutoff. So we're not allowed to have any light trespass. So that's a fairly standard spec item in our designs.
All right, because I would think a 4-story building with the lights from inside and the site lighting around it may be a bit bright for the neighborhood.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, the site lighting certainly has only down light, full cutoff, night sky compliant.
All right, thank you. For the kiss and ride, it is a long blue line. Where do the kids actually get out? Anywhere along that blue line, or?
I think the school, when they're operating, can actually decide at what length of it they're going to stop people from coming on and out of cars, because they do have people stationed out there observing and helping direct the traffic, so to speak. So they'll probably stop them around where the end of the building is. If you get too far from the building, then it's hard to have that observation that you want there. But they do have about 50 spaces in this option queued up. So it's more of a waiting zone as you get closer to Idlewood.
We like to see people pulling a U-turn, right? Get in, kick the kid out.
Right.
I don't know how wide it is.
Right.
Okay.
But it is currently shown on the plans right there, the second set of red arrows, the kiss and ride drop off. Entrance, the entrance to the school there.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I agree with most of the comments that have been said here, including the fact that I don't think there's been a lot of community engagement. I think many of us are hearing about this for the very first time, and I just heard about it by word of mouth. For site two, for option two, for the kids to get from the school to the playground, they'll have to cross the road, won't they?
So in none of the options, they have to cross a vehicular path. That's just kind of a standard
Right
design
there?
practice for us, so.
Can you turn this one off?
Yep, sure. Oops, I'm going the wrong way. Let's see. Here you go. So in this case, the playgrounds are to the left, which are directly out of the academic zone of the building. So the classrooms are here in this 3-story portion, and then they would come straight out into the playgrounds. The paved play areas like basketball courts, 4-square sort of spaces, those are directly behind the school.
Well, so the area that currently you've got is 2 different baseball fields. to
Right,
get to
so
that.
the paved play area, since the gym is in this northeast corner, it would come behind the kiss and ride. There's a sidewalk that runs behind the kiss and ride to get to the play field.
She's talking about the baseball diamond.
Yeah.
Yeah, the baseball diamond.
Yeah, isolated, surrounded by roads over there.
Brad's showing it there. It goes- So you do somewhat circumnavigate the kiss and ride loop, but we would not have them cross any kind of
I
parking
don't think that would happen now.
there.
And the other comment or question I have, and maybe now this is not the meeting to do it, is why not a net zero building?
So we did start this, we have a JET goal, or Joint Environmental Task Force, and we did initially evaluate this site for net zero. So we got to a certain point of design and determined it was infeasible, mostly for the cost on this.
I see, okay. And so at this point, do you know what type of energy, where you're gonna be getting your electricity from? Is it gonna be from solar, burning of fossil fuels? Just, have you got
We
that far?
typically get into the mechanical design at around the design development stage, which is after schematic, because once we know what the building envelope looks like, it gives us a better idea of what kind of systems are common, but we have a lot of experience with public schools in Fairfax County, so there's kind of a range of ideas we can look at, and we'll probably present multiple options for some decisions to be made.
To the community, the public.
That's probably more gonna be efficiency, what can be both operation, what, has the longevity and lack of need for maintenance, as well as energy conservation.
So that'll be shared in our next round of design, and we we mentioned the CHIPS program and sustainability initiatives throughout our materials used, our layout of the building, the type of glass. There's likely to have some type of solar feature. Right now, we feed some domestic hot water in the building with that. It's a small amount, but we do look at all of these options. Tom, I want to give you 2 quick ones from online before we have to wrap up. One is, can you do the 4-story building in option 2?
Can we put the 4-story building on the ball field?
Correct.
It's possible, but the ball field elevation is already higher than the rest of the site, so that would end up putting the taller building on the tallest portion of the site, and it may start to feel out of scale in the neighborhood. That's why we avoided that option.
It would be cost prohibitive to excavate that out, is what you're saying?
Yes, yeah, to remove the, yeah.
Can you repeat that so the online?
Oh, it was asking if it would be cost prohibitive to excavate the site to bring it all down to flat, and all that earthwork moving would be very expensive, correct?
And the Vienna Youth Soccer League is asking, has thought been put into the design of the play field, or only the footprint being considered at this stage? So they're talking about right now rectangular turf is the most flexible option and preferable in modern space.
We haven't talked about whether it's a turf field or a grass field.
Our standard is grass, natural grass.
Right, so Brad's saying the standard's a natural grass field at this time.
And we are running up on time, so we'll take these last 2 questions that we have teed up here in person. But do want to remind everybody, please check out the project page, get on the mailing list. There's also a feedback form for us if you have additional questions. You can get those to us and we'll get the answers either up on the page, we'll send it out through email notifications. So we definitely will keep you guys as informed as we possibly can.
Just a comment overall that I noticed anybody who's living on the left side prefers the building to be on the right side and has very good reason. Anybody who's on the right side has very good reason to put the building on the left side. Nobody in this room wants this building unless you have kids that are overwhelmed, obviously. The second is just being unbiased on the left or right, depending. It seems that that loop that you have that comes all this way and loops and comes back, it seems too long. I don't know if that's good or bad, but you turning and the entrance and the exit being on the same thing doesn't look very efficient from driving, I'm saying. And I feel the concern that this lady had that the traffic, everybody will go to those streets on the back. It will be true, even if the entrance on this side, which is problematic because nobody will stay in Cedar and either good for 15 minutes of all the traffic. So that either way is a concern.
I think that the traffic coming through that long loop and coming back out, I understand what you're saying about the length of time to circulate the site, but typically we extend those kiss and ride lanes as long as possible because the more we can get the cars off the road and on the site, the better. So I think that's actually a perk in the design.
Why doesn't that be put on the Elwood side, that big loop, that come same entranceway, go long, U-turns, and put it on the Elwood side instead of the Wood side.
I'm not sure I follow which.
I think think closer to Gallows instead of entering.
Closer to Gallows. We're really trying to get those entrances away from Gallows because.
I was saying, Gallows, I was saying, right now you have this huge loop going around and it's on the forest side or on the residential side. Why wouldn't you just have it on the Idlewood side?
Oh, like closer to the road.
A lot closer to the road.
Right.
So what?
I think it's primarily so that we can separate the bus loop loading and unloading from the kiss and ride side of the school. Like in most of these options, you'll notice that the kiss and ride is near the cafeteria and it's near places where the school can perform controlled release for late programs and so on. So we like to have the kiss and ride and the bus loop on separate sides of the school.
We'll still take a look at that. So thank you for that comment.
Just a thought, and I can't remember option 3, but in option 2, if you just offset those loops off of any road, so in option 2 was directly across from Greenbrier, if it just went 10 feet left or right, it would reduce, I think, some of the people trying to get onto Greenbrier and go around, or in the other option the same. That's just a thought, and if for those of you who haven't gone up, down Greenbrier and up Westchester on that hill, I would just encourage you to do so because it is quite, people walking dogs in the mornings, and a lot more traffic and parked cars could result in accidents.
Thank you.
Okay, well, we are over time and we do want to be respectful of all of you here, plus all of our staff, but I think have another meeting to go to. But again, I do want to remind you, use that project page, get your name on the mailing list. We want to keep doing more of this. Let us know what you thought of tonight. How can we make this better for you guys? Because that's why we're here, for all of you. And stay involved in the process. Thank you for being here tonight. Folks on Zoom, thank you for joining us from your homes. We really appreciate it. And you guys sign up for that mailing list as well.
When is the next meeting?
We don't have one scheduled at this time, but we will.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, have a good one.
We did last time.
Yeah.
Right, that's why I stepped up. Sidewalk to Miller. And I, it's been a great room.